Welcome back to Crit and Crit. I am Axion,
I'm Scint.
and we are continuing wandering through this very pretty part of Hollow Knight and discussing the Lord of the Flies. So last time, we did a bit of a summary and got, hopefully, everyone caught up on the basic plot, who, at least those in our audience who weren't already familiar with how the book goes, or maybe it's been a few years since you were in high school, and maybe needed a refresher.
Yep.
Now we're going to talk a bit about the book's, specifically about the book's characters, namely its main four focus characters. I'm not really going to say protagonists, I'm not sure that's the right word. At least one of them qualifies, but definitely the four main characters, however you want to define them individually. And those are...
Okay, so we had Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Draco. What, we're talking about a British school where a lot of kids get killed. Okay, Ralph, Jack, Piggy, and Simon in no particular order as to my earlier analogy here. Right. So, I'll go ahead and start with the actual protagonist, who happens to be Ralph. Ralph is the first character we meet. He is described as having fair hair. So, blonde.
Mm-hmm.
That's mostly what we get for a description of him. Fairly athletic, but...
This is where I was supposed to go.
Yeah. Mostly I think he's fairly average and just, has enough charisma to kind of get people to listen to him, but mostly he is a moderate character between the other extremes. So, Ralph is not the most intelligent of people, but neither is he the most stupid. He's not the idea guy, but he's good at listening to people who are, taking things into account and usually making fairly okay decisions from there. Ralph, overall, symbolizes civilization. He wants to maintain order within the island so that they don't start tearing each other apart, so that everybody can survive to get off the island, and just generally so people don't start killing each other. I don't think being in charge is the most important thing for Ralph, but since he is in charge and everybody put him in charge, he's going to do the best job he can with it.
It's a means to an end for him, in the sense that his goal is to have everyone survive, and the best way he can think to do that is, well, I'm in charge, let's do this, because it'll be good for us in the long run and help us get out of here alive.
Yep. Unfortunately, he also finds himself hamstrung a bit by being part of civilization, because with regards to a society, there are certain niceties that must be obeyed. And if you are an honest person who tries to, act in good faith, you are likely to fall victim to somebody who only offers lip service to those ideals and finds ways to thwart them for their own ends. So if you are not willing to play dirty right back because of a moral high ground, that's all well and good, but sometimes that's going to be taken advantage of. Speaking of, let's talk about Jack.
So Jack is basically the closest thing this book has to an antagonist, beyond more philosophical interpretations of that particular word.
Oh, I don't think he's the closest thing to an antagonist. I think he straight up is, because, well, in a literary term, the antagonist is the one who gets in the way of the protagonist's goals. Ralph's goal is to have everybody survive. Jack's goal of, I want to be in charge, and he doesn't really care so much about the whole survival and get off the island thing, is directly opposed to what Ralph wants. So he is classically an antagonist.
Okay, I was just trying to head off the argument of the real antagonist is the human nature and man's cruelty towards man.
I would say that's more of a shared character flaw that exacerbates the existing conflict, but in terms of character roles, Jack is the force that opposes Ralph's goals, and from a structural perspective, that's the role of the antagonist.
Gotcha. That's
now, I'm not calling him a villain, because that's a little bit different. So, Yeah, he is straight up the antagonist. So yeah, Jack is power hungry. You kind of get the impression from the get-go that he has an inflated sense of self-worth. He wants to be seen as a big man from the fact that he introduces himself only by his last name like the adults do, and only gives it up when nobody else reciprocates. We never find out anybody else's last name. His name is Jack Merridew.
That's not true. We
So,
find out the last name of one of the Littlands.
oh yeah, Percival Williams Madison. Yeah. But still, no one else seems to find it that important. It's like, okay, hey, yeah, I'm Ralph, I'm Simon, we're here to survive. We should introduce ourselves like grown-ups. I'm Merridew. And all the other kids just start calling him Jack anyway, so that, yeah. Jack, I think, has a bit of an inferiority complex. He needs to be in charge for his own self-validation. He instantly takes charge of the choir before they get to say anything about it. You kind of get the impression that the choir voted for him in charge only reluctantly, with him watching them. Yeah, he's very, very pushy, very much a bully. I will get my way because I'm bigger and stronger than you, and I will do whatever it takes to get what I want. Any excuse I can make to excuse, my shortcomings. Yes, it's my fault that we didn't get rescued, but I apologized, so therefore I'm in the right because you didn't apologize to me. Sort of thing. Jack is someone who knows how to play the game and is absolutely willing to break the game no matter how much harm it causes to those around him. He takes a special hatred of Piggy right off the bat, and I'm going to get into why on that later. But he goes out of his way to bully Piggy at every opportunity, denying him the chance for food, calling him fat, just stealing his glasses, doing nothing when Roger's throwing rocks at him. He actually, I'm pretty sure he's aware that Roger has been terrorizing the little ones the whole book as well, but has done nothing about it because it keeps him in line. Jack is quick to weaponize the idea of the beast as a threat when he sees that he might be able to use it to oust Ralph. Nothing is a scruple for Jack. He exists because he needs to be seen as the big man in charge, and he will take everyone down to get that. Even if it means, burning down the island that has all the food they would need to survive. So, not someone you want in charge. I think Douglas Adams said it best, the person who wants to be in charge should on no account be put in charge. Something like that.
Yep. Which is why we'll get to Hitchhiker's Guide one of these days.
One of these days, maybe. How many books do we have? I've lost track of what we have on the plan already. But yeah. After Jack, we have Piggy.
I was about to say, since you mentioned Piggy, we might as well jump to him next.
Piggy is the brains. Piggy has no physical capability. As mentioned, he's overweight. He has asthma, which prevents him from doing physical activity. So, on a deserted island where you need to be able to do physical activity to survive in any measurable capacity, he's quickly resented by the other boys because he's kind of just there and whining and complaining that they're not doing it right, but he's not actually doing anything himself.
Yep, he ends up just kind of seeming like dead weight.
But he is the source of most of the good ideas they have, such as, you should have built a shelter first. What if we did this with the signal fire? What if you can use the conch to call everybody for a meeting? What if this? What if that? What if this? And Ralph does take most of his good ideas from Piggy.
Yep.
Jack seems to oppose them just on the basis of Piggy said them, which, this happens a lot, I have noticed, in stories where authoritarianism comes up as a theme. Can't let the guy you hate have a win, even if it would actually benefit you greatly.
Yep. I would rather lose or be at a lesser beneficial state if it makes the person I hate look good or be happy. Yep.
So, Piggy is aware that he's not well liked and wants to be accepted. But he doesn't really seem to have much social grace or ability to make his ideas acceptable to others. from the first we see him, he tells Ralph, I don't care what people call me as long as they don't call me what they called me in school, which he's hoping will be an invitation for Ralph to ask his name instead of, just saying, hey, we actually never find out Peggy's name. He could just say, like, I'm Bob, and then not say the nickname he hated in school. Instead, Ralph's like, why? What did they call you in school? And Piggy says, well, they called me Piggy. Which Ralph thinks is funny as hell and immediately calls him Piggy in front of the other boys after he promises not to tell them because he forgot. So, yeah. Piggy is a little bit too naive and trusting in some regards, despite the fact that he's clearly the only one who has half a clue of what they need to do, even though he cannot manage it himself. So, yeah. Piggy is quickly targeted by Jack, probably because he makes an easy target in multiple ways. Like, he's not helping with the physical labor, so people don't like him. He's fat, and stands out from the other kids, so the kids don't like him because different is bad, because we're in elementary school here, of course, and just everything. Piggy doesn't even seem to like Ralph too much. When they're voting on who's to become chief, Piggy only reluctantly votes for Ralph on the grounds that Ralph is a safer bet than Jack. But you can tell he's not super thrilled with his options.
About to say, it's to him, it's basically a choice between the guy who made fun of me, even though I asked him not to, and the guy who's actively trying to be cruel to me.
Yep. It's like the bully or the accidental bully. Because I'm not sure Ralph meant it maliciously. He was like, oh, that is a funny name, hee, and then that was the only thing he could remember when Jack was calling him something else. Still, Ralph shouldn't have done it, but yeah. Piggy then gets himself killed when he really should have stayed down and hidden.
Yep, but he didn't want to. He wanted to say stuff and not be ignored, even though Ralph told him to stay back.
Yep.
Because he knew Jack had it out for him.
Yep. Oh, she ran away.
Oh, sweet, I got a dash attack.
Nice. But, yeah. Piggy is destroyed along with the last vestige of civilization in the conch, and this brings us to Simon. Poor Simon. We're introduced to Simon with him unconscious. He faints. He's frail, he's small, a little bit darker than the other boys, so also something of an outcast from the get-go. He doesn't fit in with the rest of the choir boys, which is why we don't really see him grouped in with the hunters for the remainder of the book once Jack makes them such. Simon is kind of that weird bridge between the little uns and the big uns, the older kids, so old and mature as they're like 10. And he's helpful. He tries to help Ralph out with things, but he also goes off and does his own things. Simon, uniquely, is not afraid of the island. He's fine actually just going off to a little hidey hole that he found and just enjoying his time in nature, just taking in the greenery, listening to the birds and everything, and it's nice. He's not trying to change the place. He's just trying to, vibe. He's also the one who's willing to investigate the beast further when everyone is terrified of it and planning how to kill it, how to defend against it, everything to do with that. Unfortunately, this gets him killed. Because while Simon is not afraid of the island and therefore not driven by fear and motivated into a frenzy because of the fear of isolation, everyone else is. And therefore he's just the sacrifice at the end. But we also know that he's more in touch with nature because of his vision. Simon actually sees our namesake for the novel, the Lord of the Flies, aka Beelzebub. It's not actually clear what happens there. I've always interpreted it as a dream/hallucination when he sees the pig's head on a stick and kind of just falls asleep.
On the other hand, it describes him as having a pulse in his brain, and he wakes up with it also describes a blood vessel bursting in his nose, and he wakes up with his face covered in blood. So my interpretation of reading it was that he had some kind of small aneurysm or stroke.
Could be. Hard to say. But yeah, in either case, he actually gets some sort of answer as to what's going on, which is just, you know I'm part of you, don't you? You're never going to get rid of me. And you're not letting us have any fun. He basically knows, at least from the dream, if you try to stop them, they're going to kill you. He tries to stop them. They kill him. Because Simon is the only one who really came to terms with the fact that there is something monstrous in everyone. And it's the personal choice and circumstances that lead you to give into it or reject it. So, yeah, with the symbolism of these characters where we have order, force, intellect, and nature, how do these interplay? Well, force shatters civilization, force overrides intellect, and force doesn't really care about nature. Force exists for force's sake, and nearly gets everybody killed in the process. If it's a goal unto itself, it's not really a means of ruling, it's a self-perpetuating virus. You're spending a lot of time on that bed.
I did not realize this dude was going to be hostile, so I was like, oh, I need to get closer to him to make the dialogue thing pop up. Nope.
Your dialogue is sword. You tried to have a piggy conversation, but he wanted to have a jack.
Basically.
Alright, I don't really know what else to add here.
Well, I pushed the wrong button. I don't think I can go that way. So, this is probably a good place to stop anyway.
Alright, until next.
See ya.